So, got Tempires here, lower side of the map. Going to be going for a hunt and the early barracks. Rotten, looking to do the same thing. The man formerly known as Lebo. Here in the green as Persia at the top side. Lower side Tempires in the purple as Greeks. So, had game one between these players. A win for Rotten on Hillfort. A pretty unusual map, so I thought for the follow-up game I'd give them a bit of a more standard map. Equal footing, basically the game's equivalent to AoE 2's Arabia or AoE 4's Dry Arabia. So Rotten finishing his barracks. Tempires has already finished his, but he's actually a little bit short of the food he needs at the moment to produce villages. There we go, his first village in queue. Well, I mean his 8th ville. So Rotten's been slightly faster on the initial Spearman unit, his initial Sparrow training faster, and he didn't have any downtime with his villager production there, so he'll be slightly ahead overall with that. So it'll be a little while before our players can go for something like hunting dogs or aid tent here. Just because the early production cost of the Sparrow and the spears, and then on top of that with your villager, it's just really hard. And on top of that, you've got to keep adding houses to 30 pop, sometimes even to 35. And then you look at aging up, then you worry about taking your age 2 upgrades. So players are free to actually push into each other here. Unlike that last game, there's not a lot in the way between our players. It's only resources, there's no aggressive stuff like you've seen in the first 2 games in the show match today. But Rotten, just a little bit better in the build order so far. He's up a villager, he's up a couple of units in production here. He's got 5 spears, 7 Sparrow, 6 spears now. So Tempires is going to look at pushing out. It's always easy to push out if you're the one that's ahead in terms of the unit production. And because we'll be fighting towards Rotten side of the map, it's going to be easier for him to reinforce his next Sparrow. It won't be as far behind as the next Spearman. Oh, Tempires is marching 1 spear up, but not the rest of them. So these are rallied, or were rallied to go further up. Unless that's deliberate, just to check ahead for the rest of the army. It's always risky to split your spears up early on though, because if your opponent's mass is bigger than yours and intercepts anything of yours, it'll kill it. Rotten's actually cut production there. I think he's looking at aging up here. Yeah, so he just cut production momentarily there so he can get his age up. He'll be looking at transferring from the hunt probably to the stone, as well as, well, he'll gather a little bit more here, but he will eventually need to transition onto the next hunt as well. So Tempires is going to try and hit this side, but it's almost finished. Although he does have a unit advantage now, so this is really nice for him. But he's just going to ignore the Sparrow and try and get a villager here. Actually, he'll stop doing that. He'll force them back, but Lebo would have had to move anyway. But now Lebo's disengaging, and he will lose a couple of Sparrow. Tempire's unsure if he wants to pick off that last one. Lebo hasn't yet got aid tent, so this guy's a bit of a sitting duck until he heals up. Rotten nearly has the stone. Yeah, there we go. He's got plenty of stone. Not really even over the gathering. That's a really nice number to finish on. Go for this next town center. Still getting the food he needs as well. This is important to maintain this production. Because even though he's finishing this on a hunt, he's not gathering from any hunts. So he's gone on the berries for the time being. His house, he probably only needs to add one of these 2 houses, I'd say. Because then he could just start sparrow production again, start villager production, even have 1 or 2 more of these guys on the berries. Tempires in the meanwhile. A lot of houses for him. In fact, he probably didn't need that last house as well. Probably only needed to go up to 40 pop before he gets the town center. Because his TC won't be far away. He's got to age up. But by the time that's done, he'll just about have the resources to put down the town center. So really, he probably could have even got away with a 35 pop TC there. So he's probably overproduced 2 houses. He's definitely overproduced at least 1. And the higher up you're playing, the more these things matter, because then that translates into things, other things that you don't have, like more units or having the TC a little bit faster. Just little things like that, but over the course of a game they do add up and they compound with one another, which is the big thing. So a range already for Rotten. Tempires, always well over gathered food here, so this is a bit of a mistake. If he had put all that instead into wood and gold gathering at this stage, he'd already have another building on the way. He'd be able to go for his stables to deal with the range. He'd be able to add a range of his own if he wanted, and he had the gold to maintain production here. You could have conditioner, you could have a handful of hypaspis and even a handful more spears by now. Although I do stand corrected, he will actually, oh no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, so he's actually only on 35 pop, and if he finishes this in time, he will. Yeah, so he didn't need either of these 2 houses, because technically he was actually only at 35 pop. The other 5 behind that, he didn't need in the queue. He's already got something in the queue trading. So, and that on top of that food overgather, that's like 2 production buildings, as well as gold to produce a handful more infantry if you wanted to. In that case, then he would need one of the houses. But even still, he did overproduce at least 1 house there. Boom. Now, just because I can't play very well doesn't mean I can't see these things happening. Anyway, and that's enough of analysing Tempires' floating food there and that sort of stuff. Because if he had a smaller food bank, he'd have the TC up faster, so he might not have needed that house, even with barracks production. But let's not go into that. So, we've got a barracks and a range here for Lebo. He's been producing a couple of bowmen here. Really quick to train. Stables is the next building here for Tempires, but we're already seeing more spear production. And we're just now seeing hyper production from Tempires as well. So Rotten will be looking at adding his own stables, and Tempires will be looking at adding his own range. And Lebo with the faster second TC, once again has eked out a 10 villager lead, without really doing any early game damage of his own. Just through a cleaner build order overall. He got the second TC a lot quicker. Didn't have times where he was housed or just not producing villagers, other than when he was waiting for like 20 food. This is a big mistake from Lebo here. He's got these bowmen just patrolling by themselves. So if he brought the whole army there, he would have been right, because he actually has got more units here than Tempires. Tempires is going to chase with the Saris, which he will get a bit of damage done. These guys almost one-shot these bowmen. So Lebo definitely playing a bit greedy with the bowmen there. But now he might be able to make it worthwhile when he picks off one of those. Still, he did lose 2 or 3 bowmen, but the beauty of Persian bowmen, especially once you're on double or even triple range, like at some stage you might eventually go to triple range if it's a really extensive age 2 against like Greeks or something like that. Or Romans if you can really drag it out and force them to fight age 2 because their comp loses to yours. But yeah, these bowmen, they train extremely quickly. Ron's already trying to wall up. Wants to protect his own hunt here, put a bit of pressure on this one. Because Tempires is gathering quite forward here. Didn't realize just how forward Tempires has been gathering here. He wants to try and get this hunt. There mustn't be a huge amount around the back. So taking all these hunts, they really are quite central here. So taking all these for Tempires, it really does force Lebo into having to try and farm. Because it looks like he doesn't have a huge amount of rear side hunt as well. And Tempires trying to put a bit of pressure on. He's going to get a few villagers, interrupt this farm eco. Farms are extremely weak themselves and quite expensive. Tempires not producing anything, neither is Lebo behind all this. Oh, there his field production's restarted. This Greek army is actually, I think, just about the same size as the Persian army now. They're catching it on the retreat. This will be good for Lebo. He cleans up a lot of army. I think he's still got a villager lead. Yeah, he does. Did restart build production faster than Tempires there, which is always a handy little advantage. And Tempires once again floating a lot of food, floating a bit of gold, but he needs a bit more wood here. Ideally, probably wants to get a little bit more production buildings. He just can't match the production speed of the Persian ranges, so he'll have to add more ranges, more stables, more barracks. So this is one of the few matchups for Greek where age 2, you feel like you're forced into really investing into it rather than just wanting to invest into it a lot. Because Persia will have you outmatched on the bowman production. Whereas the rest of the Greek matchups, you sit in age 2 because it's like, well, my composition just smacks his and there's nothing he can do about it. So I'm just going to put pressure on him so he can't invest in age 3. Against Persia, it's more, oh shit, I need to have it all built or I'm going to die. A tent there for Rotten, a handy tech, although he probably wants to park the bowman close enough to have it as well. Rotten's population just exploding right now, 50 villages to 62. So that small eco advantage coupled with being the Persian player just means, you know, if you can keep up on production buildings, your opponent, it's really hard for him to actually outproduce you. But the Greek composition has got really strong counters to it. Like Hypers, they'll just decimate this front line. Toxotes are worth a little bit more in terms of their actual stats than the Persian bowman. Not so much in terms of health, like that 5 health really doesn't mean much, but the damage, I believe they actually do hit a little bit harder. So it's 8 and 2.25 versus 9 and 2.5. Yeah, so Toxotes both hit everything harder and then counter infantry better. So yeah, the Persian units, other than the Asabara, the Persian units aren't actually worth as much as the Greek units, so to speak. So Tempires hitting Silver Age. And if he cleans up all these Asabara, it does make it hard for Rotten to actually push with the bowman and this composition, because if he's leading with the spearmen, that's a lot of damage to take from the Toxotes. He really needs the Asabara to actually be able to engage in fights in Age 2. Particularly if you do have a lot of Saris, because then they can just hit the backline, reach the bowman. But Rotten, he's definitely got a lot more population here. He's got his upgrades on the way. He's got ranged damage. Getting ranged armor. Tempires, in the meanwhile, going for age 3 upgrades, wants Toxotes champ. Even more damage out of those guys. Give them a little bit more health too. Switching to hoplites. So these guys, a little bit more robust than the spearmen. Bit more health. Bit of pierce armor. They're a bit more expensive than the spears, but it should be worth it. Rotten taking engagements like this, it does hurt his ability to actually just try and push straight for it. Like if he wants to raid, I mean, he did a bit of damage down here, but he needs to try and pressure the houses or this third TC. The Tempires is gonna go for the flank there, but Sari's having a hard time taking an engagement. But now the bowmen haven't got anything sitting in front of them. Looks like Tempires is slowly losing this battle here. His own front line is falling apart. There's a lot of forward production here from Lebo actually. He did this, I played a match of him in the reverse of this matchup. And he played this style. I was the Persian player in Tempire's position and he just forward built like this. He even started adding towers and just made it, you know, really do or die, because once the siege workshops finish, he can just push with rams and you're dead. And it's hard to push into him, well, particularly if he's Persia on this side, because the aid tent, towering, the really quick training bowman, having so much pierce armor with Asabara and Sparabara, so your own towering isn't as effective. So this would be really tough for Tempires to hold on to here. Lebo's already done a little bit of farming as well. He will eventually have to really build his eco around farms, especially because Tempire's got a lot of that mid-map food. But now Lebo is going to secure that berries. Some good vision here from Lebo. Tempires is gathering off to this left side though. Waiting for a couple more rams to finish, and I think Lebo will be looking to push here. Tempires adding mostly stables units now. Trying to get barbed arrows, so he hasn't really added much armory yet. Hasn't added any academy tech, so he can't reap the benefit of the faster training, which would be really big right now if he had the resources to back it up. 79 vils to 78 though, so eco is pretty even now. Lebo did cut his eco a little bit earlier than he did with the earlier game. He's mainly focusing on just getting a massive army. It's a lot of rams, he's got 5. So he's going to try and push here. Very impressive army here from Lebo right now. While Tempires going to try and defend hidden behind his buildings here, which is a good idea. He's got some pelters in the mix, so it's a nice addition to try and clean up this Persian backline. But in the meanwhile, the rams can be able to deal a lot of damage, take out the town center quickly. Not really any combat going on anywhere else around the map at the moment. Robin's just trying to break Tempires here. He's really running low on a front line at the moment though. His population's in great shape. Tempires in the meanwhile, it's finding it hard to repop at the moment. GG is called. His shield room's not even going to finish on time. And that's all she wrote, guys. Looks like Lebo taking a second game here. Yeah, so that early game villager difference, I think, is what really killed him.